Today we are here to talk about what I am currently reading, like what I'm reading right now, and just do my mid-month check-in, basically. So yeah, so far it's been a productive reading month, so my intentions for May is to get a lot of things done reading-wise, because for the next good chunk of the year, I'm going to have a lot of plans happening in terms of people coming into town or me visiting people. And just with my autoimmune disease, like all of that takes it out of me a lot. So I am not expecting to be as productive or like volume-wise as productive in my reading for a good chunk of the rest of the year. So I'm trying to get through a lot of books that I need to from like an arc standpoint, where like some of the things that I just want to get done this year at some point, I'm going to try to do this month. Not that I'm not going to read for the rest of the year, but just that I've talked about this before. When it's winter time and all of the germs are running rampant, I tend to hibernate. As the sun comes out, I stop hibernating as much. So that just means I have less reading time, which is great. That's part of kind of the seasonal rhythms that I've developed for myself over the last couple of years that I actually really enjoy. So I'm expecting that I'm going to have a lot of other stuff going on, and therefore this month we're kind of battening down the hatches and really trying to get through some of planned reading stuff. So with that in mind, let's talk about what I've read, what I'm currently reading, and what I might read next. So in terms of what I've read, biggest thing, or kind of like the big project that I completed, was my Japanese mystery reading experiment. I really enjoyed that, and I know it's a little niche, so I kind of knew it wasn't going to be everyone's favorite video for me, but I really enjoyed it. I talk a little bit in the beginning about the development of the genre and what I've learned, the types of books that I'm going to be seeking out as a result of this. So if you want to hear about the 6 books I read for that, go watch that video. Like I said, I'm really pleased with how it came out. So I'll talk about Confessions more at the end of the month, but otherwise, go check out that video. Let's see here. Things that I am not going to tell you about that I read, because I'm going to talk about them at the end of the month. Identity by Nora Roberts, Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and When She's Wary by Ruby Dixon. Those are all 3 hits, and I will talk more about those at the end of the month. Okay, speaking of Nora Roberts and Ruby Dixon, I read other things from them. So, Irish Rose by Nora Roberts I read. That is technically, I guess it's a series, but it's like a very loosely, I don't know. It doesn't read like a typical series, but technically it's a follow-up from Irish Thoroughbred, which is actually the first book that Nora Roberts ever wrote. And Irish Rose I actually quite enjoyed, especially the first half of it. The second half we got a little too alpha for me. It's just not my kind of contemporary romance hero, but particularly the first half of it, I really enjoyed like the banter and the dynamics, and they were in Ireland, and then, they're all in horse racing. I don't know. The vibes were fun. The first half of it I thought was much stronger than the back half, but overall I would recommend this one. I thought that this was a good example of an earlier category romance that I think is still pretty readable. When She's Fearless is the first of sort of like a pair of novellas in the Rizdiverse universe that Ruby Dixon put out over the last month. So there's When She's Fearless and then When She's Wary. I liked When She's Wary better than When She's Fearless, but I thought When She's Fearless was pretty solid. I just didn't think that there was enough conflict there. So basically it's a pair, so it's 2 Praxian brothers are the heroes, and then the human women they're getting with are neighbors on Rizda. Should note that this is a sci-fi romance, and if you know, you know. We got a lot of lore and backstory in this series that I'm not even going to attempt to get into, but I thought it was an interesting concept for her and something she's played with a lot. I think an overriding theme in Ruby Dixon's work is responses to trauma in the context of romantic relationships. Like, one thing I enjoy about her approach to that topic is that she doesn't have this is how people respond to abuse and trauma in their past. There's a wide range of responses, and this novella pairing is specifically looking at 2 diametrically opposed responses to trauma. And When She's Fearless is a heroine who has experienced incredible levels of abuse during her time of enslavement when she was kidnapped from Earth. And her response is, I do not know what the future holds. All I can do is live in the moment and enjoy the moment, because it could get bad again. But I'm not gonna borrow trouble. I need to enjoy what I have while I have it. And then when she's weary is the opposite response of like, I will never get got again. So I think that that's just I like that as a concept. I think when she's fearless, it just didn't have, like I said, enough actual like plot conflict for me to feel like it was a standout. But I think together, thematically, I actually quite like the idea that she's playing with there. I wanted to also note that I DNF'd Bethia, which is in the Corsair series, and I kind of consider the Rizdaverse and Corsair series to be together-ish. There's a lot of overlap, and I know that all of her stories overlap. They're all in the same universe or same like world, but those two in particular feel like they kind of go together. Bethia, I just have never liked her. She reminds me a lot of the fairy godmother character she has in her Once Upon a Time stuff that she wrote under Jill Miles. It's just not a character type I like. It's chaotic and just kind of coming in and out of the story. I just don't like her. So I just didn't want to. I got about, I'd say 20% in and was like, I'm not enjoying this, and the whole reason I read Ruby Dixon is to enjoy it. So I skipped to the end to find out some of the plot stuff that happened, but I DNF'd Bethia. It's not probably bad. I just don't like that character and therefore didn't want to read the book. Okay, and then 2 arcs I can tell you about. First was Kiss Me Mi Amor, which is a contemporary romance by, I want to say the author's name is Alana Quintana Albertson, maybe? So this was the first time reading from this author, and unfortunately I did not end up enjoying this book. So it is a bummer. First of all, this cover is absolutely gorgeous. Obsessed with the cover. And the ideas of this book are things I like. So the first book was a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, so it's like 2 families who didn't get along kind of like coming together. The Montague family of that setup, quote unquote, has this big food empire, and one of the brothers wants to start sourcing some of their produce from ethical agriculture and farms that are run by Latinx families or Latinx business owners. And so he targets this one specific family and their farm that he wants to work with. He goes, there ends up being like a fake dating story between he and the oldest daughter, who is the actual owner of the farm, but has basically like lets her parents run it, and her parents immigrated from Mexico, so they are first generation Mexican Americans, and they're very, very conservative. It's like a bunch of girls in the family, and they're very traditional Catholic. They're very protective of her, and it creates a lot of conflict. So it's about them having this like kind of fake dating-ish story as they're like exploring this business relationship that then transitions into romance. And it's also about like family dynamics and conflict, and how do you become your own person when you still like really esteem and respect your parents, but they have specific ideas for your life that might not be what you want. Like, all of that on paper I think is really interesting. The issue I had with this is just that the writing style is just not to my taste. It's very telling rather than showing, and it made everything feel very flat in the book. So the characterization feels flat, the plot unfolding feels really flat, and especially in a romance, you need the main characters to feel like they're actually having real chemistry, and it just felt like I was constantly being told that there was chemistry or told that people had emotions or whatever, and I didn't feel any of it. And it was really a bummer, because a lot of those things I was talking about in terms of like themes and dynamics, it's very much up my alley. But I just really, this one really let me down. I was sad. Because, you know, based on the back of the cover, this should be one I really enjoyed, and I just didn't. So that was a real bummer to me. The other one I was going to mention is 0 Days by Ruth Ware. So Ruth Ware is just a solid go-to author for me at this point. Like, I've not read a book from her that I have not at least enjoyed. She's very competent, I feel, in terms of her just sort of like craft of mystery thriller, suspensey kind of books. She's just good at writing that kind of story. So I've never had a bad time in one of her books, and this book is no different. I just don't think that this is her wheelhouse. And so while it was entertaining, I think it's probably my least favorite book from her, and it's not what I want her to be doing. But I have to give her bonus points for like trying something new, right? People don't want to get stuck in a rut. I don't think we should treat authors like they're just content machines who should always do the exact same thing because that's what we want. Like, I'm on board with the idea of authors trying new things. I just don't think this mode is my favorite from her, but it's a fun idea. So it's basically kind of a take on The Fugitive. So this couple, Jack and Gabe, are penetration testers. So like they get hired to try to infiltrate people's security. They're in love. They're a very sweet married couple. And the wife, Jack, is out on a job. When she gets back, her husband, Gabe, is dead. And the cops think she did it. And so she has to like go on the run / prove she didn't do it and find out who actually did it. Now, I am obsessed with the movie The Fugitive starring Harrison Ford. I have probably seen that movie 100 times. It was one of my all-time favorites as a kid. Love that movie. So I was into that as a vibe. I don't know. I don't think that the mystery or thrilling component of it was that successful. So while it was entertaining, I just don't think it was a standout. And I would love for her to focus back more on a whodunit, because to me, that really plays into more of her strengths. But if you are looking for your annual Ruth Ware fix for your summer vacay, I think that you'll have a good enough time reading this book. I think it's enjoyable. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it is her strongest. So I think that's everything I've read that I can tell you about, which is not as much as normal, right? Like I said, I'm slowing down a little bit, so I'm trying to focus on things I really got to read. In terms of what I'm currently reading, I've just started my reread of The Blade itself, which me and Leanna are buddy reading all three. She's going to help me get through the First Law trilogy. So we're doing this one this month, which is a reread for both of us. Next month will be new reads for me for the last two. So this is what I was starting. I just had restarted on audio, but I just got the Once and Future Sex from my hold at the library. So I think I'm going to have to switch to the physical version of this and move to that being my audiobook. You know, the library gods, you gotta strike when the iron's hot. So I'm technically reading that. Am I technically reading anything else? I don't think so. So then let's just pivot to what I might read next. And actually I should grab my list just a second. Okay, so I definitely want to get through more arcs this month. That's like my number one priority because those are things I've committed to read and I want to make sure I do that. So the ones that I'm hoping to get to this month are Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates, which is an isolation thriller set in the snow. So I think she's normally a horror writer, so I'm curious to see how this goes. Camp Damascus by good old Chuck Tingle. Can't wait to see what he's like writing a more serious book. And it is a horror novel set at a conversion camp, so timely. The Deep Sky, I can't remember the author. I want to say the author's first name is Yumi, but I could be wrong there. And I believe that this is a sci-fi mystery of some kind. That sounds right. So that on the docket. And then The Sun and the Void, which is a South American mythology-based fantasy. I heard about this originally from Angela at Literature Science Alliance, and yeah, you guys know how much I have absolutely loved the Between Earth and Sky trilogy from Rebecca Roanhorse, so I'm really excited to get another fantasy with that kind of mythological reference. Should note Between Earth and Sky has been delayed till next year, which whatever, I understand. So this is going to be my pre-Columbian South American fantasy fix for the year. The Wellness Trap by Christy Harrison is a nonfiction that technically came out in April, but I got it kind of late, so I still need to read that. The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. The issue I'm having is I've got a number of kind of like chunkier fantasies here So I want/need to get to that, but I'm not sure how it's going to slot in. Which leads me to, I theoretically am supposed to be reading The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin, but it just may not happen this month. I may have to kind of push that to later in the summer when I don't have as many kind of like more substantial fantasies on my TBR. And then I may get started on my second half of the Goodreads mystery vlog that I did, which is reading popular mysteries. Oh, also, sorry, my neighbor is mowing their yard, so we're all just gonna have to deal. But anyway, so reading popular mysteries based on its Goodreads popularity. The first half of that vlog was me reading ones that were on my TBR already, that I already physically owned, which, if you saw that, was not the most successful vlog outing I've ever had. So the next half is doing ones that are available on Kindle Unlimited. So I've got His and Hers by Alice Feeney. We'll see how that goes. The Boy from the Woods by Harlan Coben. The Good Lie by A.R. Torrey. The Therapist by B.A. Paris. And 20 Years Later by Charlie Donnelly. So that is going to be a vlog. I don't know if I'm going to do that this month or not. It kind of depends on how the rest of this goes because, like I said, I need to prioritize the things I've committed to reading. So theoretically that might happen. And then the only other thing is the autobiography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley. And this is my unwrapped book from last month that I did not get to, but I got to a different wrapped book, so it was okay. But before I unwrap another book, I need to finish this. So that is really the only other thing kind of on my radar. Yeah, I don't know. I am assuming I'm not going to get to all of that, and that I'll probably slot in some other things. I think I need to find a way to do a little bit more mood reading, so we'll see kind of how I navigate that. And then, yeah, if I can get through definitely those arcs, I think I'll be setting myself up for success for the rest of the summer. I think I might do slow summer, where I purposely pick books that take a little bit more effort to read. People ask me all the time how I read so much. A lot of the way I read so much is that I'm reading things that don't take a lot of, brain power for me. So it's the equivalent of me putting on an episode of like CSI. So it's not even on. I don't even know if that's on anymore. You can tell the last time I was watching TV with any regularity. What the same effort is putting on Ted Lasso. How about that? I don't, that's the majority of what I read. It doesn't take a ton of brain power for me. So I'm thinking possibly of purposefully slowing things down this summer, picking books that do take more mental effort from me, and giving myself permission to just kind of slow down a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see if that ends up happening, but that's an idea I'm kind of playing with. So anyway, let me know how your reading is going this month. Let me know what you thought about any of the books that I talked about, if you have any of them on your radar. And yeah, I think that will do it for this one. So if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you're having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!